Okay, what is going on? We are back discussing ongoing things that continue to happen in this current administration. Now, it is March 24th. Um, if you recall, President Trump was inaugurated as the president January 20th. And here we are, 64 days later. And it's just been back to back chaos and confusion all over the place. People not knowing if they're going to have rights from day to day, where their tax dollars are really going, how they're losing their benefits. It's just an ongoing process of chaos and confusion. And today's chaos and confusion, we're going to be discussing DOGE, the Department of supposedly it's supposed to be the Department of Government Efficiency, yet we are not seeing anything efficient about it. So this is being brought to me by NPR. Former head of Social Security says Elon Musk and Doge are wrong about the agency. Information to this link and additional resources will be in the description box below. And as always, I always strongly recommend and encourage people take the time to do their own research and critically think. And if you would like to, feel free to share your resources and information in the comment box below. So, the Trump administration says big changes are coming to Social Security as it works to weed out alleged fraud. But Michael Astrew, a former commissioner of the Social Security Administration, warns that Trump's administration's efforts are ill-informed. Elon Musk, a close advisor who is also an illegal immigrant, advisor to President Trump and his largest donor, has been combing through the administration records through the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And again, if you remember back in 2021, Doge was created as a cryptocurrency that at the time Elon Musk was promoting. And notice he promoted it and then he went on Saturday Night Live and pretty much said that it was a farce. And then the Doge cryptocurrency value plummeted. Yeah, that was 4 years ago. So here we are today watching him do the same thing to Tesla. I mean, after a while, it's kind of obvious that certain people are not really intelligent. They just happen to have money. That's it. Anyways, so, quote, if you want to go in and put in efficiencies to bring down the size of the agency, you can do that. But there's a smart way to do it, and there's a stupid way to do it, Astrew said, and, quote, and we are doing it in the way that a 22-year-old frat boys that have never seen the system think is a good idea, and that's a mistake. And honestly, when you look at a lot of the people that are hired under it, Elon Musk, Doge, and just the administration in general, it's, I'm just going to go on and say it, in my opinion, they argue that diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, or affirmative action are all of these, pick me choices of putting people into positions when they're not actually, um, they don't have the criteria for the job, right? They're not up to par, yet most of the people that are being appointed here are not up to par. They just happen to be white cisgendered men. But okay. Anyways, Astrew warns that Doge workers aren't familiar with Social Security functionalities or common business oriented language, COBOL, a 60-year-old code, right? Used by the Social Security Administration that some of the Doge workers may not have worked with before. Astrew says he doesn't condemn Musk and his team for not knowing the code, but he does fault Musk for not admitting to the error. And again, why does an illegal immigrant have access to all of our Social Security information in the first place? You're not a government official. You haven't been elected. And again, you can technically an illegal immigrant, which is hilarious because this is the same person in the same political party that is supposedly anti-illegal immigrant, yet his top advisor is an illegal immigrant. So I just think it's hilarious to see the constant projection and the hypocrisy and the double standards literally in our face. Okay, Quote, instead of admitting the error, he doubled down and had the President of the United States make that claim. And that's the real disservice to President Trump. But again, when you look at everything that President Trump has been stating, is most of the things that he's posting is misinformation. Most of the things that he's saying is misinformation. It's blatant lies and can easily be debunked. And it's oftentimes these errors and these very quick decisions that he's implementing are harming his own people, his own constituents. Again, when you talk about these town halls that are happening in Republican-led districts by Republican politicians who have been elected, and they're hosting town halls, these are their supporters that are coming angry, mad, frustrated, and confused. And these are also the same people, okay? These are the same people 4.5 months ago that made the decision to vote for this person. And now these are the same people 4.5 months later losing Medicaid, losing Medicare, losing their Social Security, losing their disability benefits, losing their veteran affair benefits, and so forth and so forth. And at some point, it's like I said so many times before, when you are focused on being a single issue voter, you ultimately end up screwing your own best interests out. You end up throwing yourself under the bus. And a lot of you, in my opinion, are closed-minded bigots. So it didn't bother you when you thought it was just going to be black and brown people and trans and queer folks. But now that you are losing your benefits, now you're angry and talking about how your rights and freedoms are being taken away. Yet you had no problem with taking those same rights and freedoms away from people that you had decided were less than or were the problem. So I at some point, it's sad and unfortunate because it just also highlights how uneducated a lot of people are and how uninformed a lot of people are. But then it also highlights like how privileged so many people have been. They've never really had to struggle or suffer through anything. And this is why they're angry and having all of these town halls and yelling and screaming and protesting because you never had to suffer a day in your life. You're white, living in a white country where everything is about you. So it's just wild to see these very same people freaking out now that they're losing access to benefits that they've already paid for, which is another thing. They're constantly talking about how it's government waste, it's wasteful spending. Yet all of us that are taxpayers in this country, regardless of your ethnicity, your gender, your sexuality, you've already paid these taxes. When you look at your paychecks, for example, every time you get a paycheck, you look at your pay stub. It tells you Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, federal taxes, state taxes that have been deducted from your paycheck. You've already paid for these benefits and services just for the illegal immigrant, Elon Musk, to turn around and tell you that you don't deserve what you've already worked for. So I just want to throw that out there. And again, how is a South Africaner going to be telling you, an American, how your tax dollars should be working? But no one has anything to say about that, right? Okay, but moving on. Musk also continues to claim that the Social Security Administration is practicing extreme levels of fraud. However, he failed to provide any proof of the extreme levels of fraud, and in his claims have all been debunked by the agency's inspector general and its acting commissioner, Leland Dudek. Again, all these people keep doing. I keep saying this. I've been saying this for over a year. They're constantly projecting what they're doing onto others. Amen. Okay, they're committing fraud, amen, but yet they're claiming that the tax dollars that you've already paid for is fraud. Amen. Okay, Social Security distributes benefits to more than 70 million people in the USA. And if the Trump administration gets in the way, thousands of staff members will be laid off. Offices across the country will be closed around the U.S., and tougher policies for Social Security recipients will be enforced, including in-person identity checks, which could make it extremely difficult for older adults and disabled people to access critical benefits that they are actually entitled to having. Okay, again, this is what I mean by when you're uninformed and you are a single issue voter, you end up throwing yourself as well as everybody else under the bus. Okay, now, said this before. When you, again, people have been working and working and working. Me personally, July of this year will mark 16 years of me working. I've been paying into Social Security for 16 years. So when they're sitting up here talking about, oh, it's fraud and this, that, and the third, and nobody's entitled, then give us our money back. Give us the 16 years, okay, and have it adjusted for today's inflation. Give us all of our money back. I can almost guarantee you a lot of us would be able to pay off our student loans if we didn't have to waste it paying for Social Security. Okay, a lot of us would be able to do a lot more with our lives if we didn't have to constantly pay a country that doesn't give us rights back in the first place. But okay, then when you're taking away you're cutting the programs that we've already paid taxes for, and then you're laying off thousands of staff members across the country. This is all from the same president who claimed that he was going to have a robust economy and he was going to make America great again, which it never was to begin with. But okay. Again, you're laying off thousands of people. How is laying off people and cutting their jobs going to make the economy better? And how is that going to help everyday working Americans? Everybody that has a regular 9 to 5, you're working 40 or more hours a week, which many of us have 2 and 3 jobs because we live in a country that refuses to pay living wages. And yet we're working and still having these taxes deducted out of our paychecks. Well, what are we paying for since you're cutting everything? Okay, I'm just saying. Then for anybody that's an older American or anyone living with disabilities, it's going to be a lot difficult for them to get the care that they are entitled to. Okay. A lot of older Americans don't have access to the internet, and if they do, some of them don't know how to work cell phones, tablets. So, exactly, how are they supposed to do all of that? And then, can they drive? Do they have access to transportation to go to the few Social Security Administration buildings that are left since they're closing? Not to mention, a lot of you who voted for Trump live in the rural areas where there already is less services and programs and resources. So, good luck on trying to get to your Social Security office when you are already living in the country. Okay? It's probably going to be closed. A spokesperson for Social Security Administration told NPR that it is focused on, quote, identifying efficiencies and reducing costs, which a lot of times reducing costs is terminating jobs and also denying you of benefits that you have already paid for. That's what your reducing costs ends up being. Okay. And again, if we really wanted to reduce costs, one way to reduce costs across the board is to get rid of all of these unnecessary CEOs to begin with.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're literally paying people to not do anything, millions of dollars, while the people that are actually doing the work are living check to check. I'm just saying, if we got rid of the stock shareholders, the CEOs, a lot of the waste would be gone. Okay. In fact, if you think about it, Elon Musk is waste. I mean, why should one person be worth over $300 billion, yet every single day people that are working their butts off to barely make ends meet and oftentimes are not making ends meet and they actually are working, they don't get any money, but we're going to give all of our money to an illegal immigrant?
Exactly.
Just throwing it out there. Okay, I'm just saying, not to mention Elon Musk is getting all of these government contracts, right? Like he wants to take over the FAA. He wants to take, he's taking over your Social Security Administration, your Medicaid, your Medicare. They're getting rid of the Department of Education. I'm sure he's going to have a government contract for something else. It's so much going on. Also, he wants to basically control your internet. and your cell phone capabilities, with your it's so much things going on. Okay, I can go on, and information will be in the description box because unlike Elon Musk, we actually have receipts to back up what we're talking about. We actually aren't just doing things because we're stupid and we think we know everything. Yeah. Anyways, so Astru, who served again as the commissioner of the Social Security Administration for 6 years under President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama, joined NPR's Michael Martin to discuss Trump's administration plan to reform the Social Security Administration. Okay. And Michael Martin asked the following question: based on your experience, is the Social Security Administration rife with fraud? Elon Musk keeps insisting that it is. And Michael Astrew said, no, it's not. And the big claims are just flat out wrong. It's just product of the fact that they sent in a group of 20-year-olds with laptops who are used to seeing certain types of codes. They went in without the proper authorities and didn't understand it. And this is the truth. They're literally using an algorithm to determine who's an actual human and who's not. And they're removing thousands of people who are actually alive off of Social Security based off of an AI, an algorithm. So, welcome to the problems of this country. This is what we're dealing with. Martin, they didn't understand what they were seeing. Astru, no. Martin, they drew a conclusion based on their own lack of understanding of how the agency actually worked. Astru, you can't fault them for that because they haven't ever seen the COBOL code before, which is a program code that's been used by the Social Security for over 60 years. But you can fault Elon Musk because instead of admitting the error, he doubled down and had the president of the United States make that claim. And that's a real disservice, again, to President Trump and to all of the American people. Martin, are you concerned that these proposed changes, like requiring people to verify their identities and persons, could cause people, Granny, I'm doing a video, could cause people to lose benefits that they actually should get? And Astru went on, yes, it's at least going to cause delays, and in some cases, they may just not get it at all. And to put in this requirement at the same time that you are literally cutting staff and you're also closing up office spaces dramatically is going to compound what is already a big problem. And this really is already a big problem because you have a lot of people who have already submitted Social Security claims for disability who are still waiting to get approved or disapproved. And I mean, this could take years. There have been people who it took them 5 years of going back and forth with the Social Security Administration and getting a lawyer involved as well to advocate on their behalf, which is a privilege in of itself because as you know, in America, your average person is actually poor or working class. That's right. Most folks make well under $100,000 a year in this country. So to be able to afford a legal professional, a lawyer, an attorney to argue on your behalf so you can get approved for Social Security is a privilege that most people cannot afford. Okay, and then the fact that it's taking years and years and years prior to Trump's administration to even get approved already highlights the ongoing issue. You're understaffed to begin with. Okay, you don't have enough staff members in there. Make it come on. So there's just things to think about there. Okay. Martin, where would you look for efficiencies and cost reductions if you were still in charge? And Astru said, well, the back office operations, a lot of the more arcane things are very labor intensive. It's very slow and it's fairly error prone. So a lot of that could be done with artificial intelligence. The agency also runs the largest system of justice in the world. And under agency rules now, most people are submitting medical records, okay, of 500 to 1,000 pages. For the judges and the staff to get through those is hard. We tried to automate that on my watch and the technology wasn't ready. I think the technology is ready now. Again, he was a Social Security administrator under Bush and under Obama. So He's last been in there. It's been going on 9 years since he's been in there. So that was 9+ years ago. Today, the technology, the AI is here, right? Supposedly. It would be efficient and it would be better service for the public. You all can continue to read more of this and just other articles that will be in the description box below. But I also want to talk about Social Security administrator, who's the acting administrator, who's backing out of shutting down the agency. The head of the Social Security Administration said this past Friday, okay, March 21st, that he wouldn't be shutting down the agency after a federal judge backed up a temporary restraining order against illegal immigrant Elon Musk government cost-cutting panel. Social Security Administration Chief Leland Dudek, an appointee. Okay, President Trump appointed Leland, okay, responsible for implementing the cuts from Musk Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Literally, they just made this up. Said Friday that the court had clarified its position on its restraining order and that the agency would continue working. Quote, I am not shutting down the agency, Dudek said in a statement. Social Security Administration employees and their work will continue under the temporary restraining order. Dudek has indicated he's not the one running the show at the Social Security Administration, but is rather following orders. Quote, I am receiving decisions that are made without my input. I have to effectuate those decisions. Dudek said in notes on a meeting he took with legal aid attorneys, as reported by the Washington Post earlier this month. Dudek described the DOGE team that's calling the shots at Social Security as outsiders who are unfamiliar with nuances of Social Security Administration programs, but said he and his colleagues, quote, have to let them see what is going on at the Social Security Administration, according to the meeting notes that were obtained by the Washington Post. So again, these people that are in DOGE are not, they're outsiders, they're third party, okay? And again, this is a department that has been created by an illegal immigrant. I just want to keep throwing that out there because these are the same people that are we're cracking down on illegal immigrants and blah 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 when it's a bunch of BS. I mean, it is blatant BS, okay? On Thursday, U.S. District Judge Ellen Lipton Hollander issued an opinion that said the DOGE team was engaged in a, quote, fishing expedition at the Social Security Administration and that it hasn't provided even a single reason it would need access to the trove of personal taxpayer data it is seeking. And that's the thing. They have access to all of our personal information, including your health and medical records. Why should an illegal immigrant have that information on you? And why should a third party, okay, of quote unquote tech bros have access to your information? How is that not a breach of information? How, I mean, literally, they have all of this information on you without your consent. Defendants, quote, defendants with so-called experts on the DOGE team never identified or articulated even a single reason for which the DOGE team needs unlimited access to Social Security Administration's entire record systems, thereby exposing personal, confidential, sensitive, and private information that millions of Americans entrusted to their government, the judge wrote. She said the restraining order against DOGE serves the public interest. DOGE has been running a roughshod through the federal government, making huge cuts at its agencies such as the U.S. Agency for International Development and accessing programs as diverse as the Treasury's Department International Payment System and the IRS. The Social Security Administration is slated to close dozens of offices this year as a part of the Trump administration efforts to shrink the size of the federal government, according to multiple media reports. Tens of millions of Americans receive retirement and disability benefits from the Social Security Administration, according to the agency's figures. In 2023, 72 million people were on some form of Social Security. So to put that, we have around 300 plus million people living in the US. And for 72 million of them as of 2023 to be receiving some form of Social Security, that's a large chunk of our population. Okay. That's seniors, that's people that are retired, that's people living with disabilities. So you've got Social Security disability income, you have Social Security income, and you have SSI supplemental income. There's various different forms of Social Security that people are benefiting from. Okay. There's even a survivor's benefit for children if their parents have passed away. They can receive survivor benefits until a certain age through the Social Security Administration. So there's just a lot that's, again, at stake here. And a lot of people have been under the impression that, oh, it's not going to impact me. What does that have to do with me? I'm not on Social Security, yet you're paying for it. It's just so many things. And then there's people finding out, oh, that actually does impact me. Yeah, right. Because a lot of you are literally using Medicare and Medicaid right now. That's your healthcare coverage through the government. That's going to potentially be cut. So these are things that are impacting every single one of us. And even if you're not using Medicare or Medicaid, you're paying for it already out of your taxes. So again, these are things that are impacting every American taxpayer in this country. Okay. And again, this is what happens when people are uninformed, uneducated, closed minded, single issue voters, and let's just be honest, bigots. Okay. Like a lot of you are so focused on keeping social service programs from Black folks, brown folks, Hispanic, Latino, Native American, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander. You're anti women, you're anti trans, you're anti queer, gay, yet you're also throwing yourself under the bus while practicing your ignorance. It just needs to be said. Okay, because a lot of you thought, oh, it's just going to be that group. It's not going to have anything to do with me. And yet, who is typically the angry people at these Republican town halls? You are the very same people that voted for this man. I just want to throw that out there. I'm going to keep throwing it out there. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment box below. If you would like to share your sources, your data, your information, drop that in the comment box as well. Make sure that you take the time to do your own independent investigation and literally consider implementing critical thinking skills when you're researching. Information is always in the description box below, and I am out of here.